Hi, everyone. My name is Gabrielle Viaume. I'm an assistant director of admissions here at Skidmore College, and I am so excited to welcome you to our Creative Thought Work series. This series aims to amplify Skidmore outcomes through monthly themed panels that reach a large audience of prospective students from across the country and around the world. Our session today is titled Creative Thought Works from Passion to Profession. We have five amazing panelists. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves before we begin our moderated discussion, which will be recorded and available on the admissions website. And then afterwards, we're going to move into breakout rooms where panelists will be available for questions submitted through the chat feature. So, with that, panelists, if you could please share your name, your graduation year, and your professional title. We're going to go alphabetically by first name. So we will start with David.
Hi, everyone. My name is David Tago. I was an international student from Kenya, and I graduated in 2023. I am currently working as a robotics and machine learning scientist at the Toyota Research Institute.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Hannah.
This is like the moment my cat comes in. Hi, I'm Hannah. I graduated in 2020, and I work for People Magazine as a writer reporter for the parents vertical, so like celebrity parenting.
Amazing. Thank you. Let's go to Jenny.
Hello, I'm Jenny. I graduated in the class of 2019, and I work as a marketing manager at the beauty brand Chantecaille.
Awesome. Layla. Can't hear you.
I was waiting for my audio.
There you go.
I know there's a bit of a lag. I anticipated it. Hi, everyone. I'm Layla. I graduated from Skidmore in the class of 2021, and I'm currently working as a data analyst for the sales strategy team at Cox Communications. I've been here for 6 months. Prior to this, I was working as a data analyst with the New Orleans Saints.
Awesome. And last but not least, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I graduated in class of 2024, so just this past May. And I am an associate lower school teacher at Rye Country Day School in a first grade classroom in
Amazing.
Westchester.
Yeah, so I think it's amazing that we have such a wonderful group of younger alums joining us this evening. So thank you all so much for those introductions. So I want to start moving into some questions. So at Skidmore, we believe that creative thought matters. It informs everything we do here and is a huge distinction of Skidmore. We created this series to help prospective students and their families understand this difference. So my question to you is, how did Creative Thought Matters influence your experience at Skidmore, and how did it influence and prepare you for what you are doing right now? Does anyone want to start us off? Yeah, Rachel, sure.
Well, it influenced my experience at Skidmore in so many ways. It being not so long ago, I was able to be involved in every single thing that I wanted to be involved in. I know Gabby very well. I was one of our head tour guides in the admissions office. I was able to take art classes, English classes. I was a psychology major, and I was able to be involved in research, in our honors forum, just the breadth that you're allowed, not even allowed, but that you can be a part of, and it's celebrated that you are creative in your different outlets, whether you're creative on the sports field, creative in the art class, in a music space, in your academic areas. It is just the part of what makes Skidmore Skidmore. And then today, in applying Creative Thought Matters to my role as a first grade teacher, as you can tell, my hands are covered in paint, so that artistic creativity and wanting to be involved in various things within my school community is something that I learned is possible from being a part of the Skidmore community. So I'm so grateful and Skidmore was just the best 4 years of my life, and I miss it very dearly. But I will be back to visit because once you're in Saratoga, you never want to leave.
So true. So, so true. Layla, I saw you wanted to go.
Volume नहीं आ रहा.
Let me know when you're hearing me.
Yes.
There we go.
Volume नहीं आ रहा.
I had a very similar experience to Rachel. I think one thing that really sets Skidmore apart is that there's never going to be a moment in your academic journey where you are encouraged to narrow your scope or to drill in only on the courses that are directly related to your career aspirations. And I think that that has been so key to me being able to think dynamically and think outside of the box, and also look for solutions outside of the expected places. Because I, through this fundamental part of my education journey, was always encouraged to look for answers and solutions and inspiration from the least expected places. And I think that really translates to my work life because, you know, as somebody who works in the tech space, especially as an analyst, a lot of my coworkers are very much numbers oriented, answers and solutions focused, and they forget communication, they forget creativity, flexibility, and they forget to think outside of the box. And I have been really fortunate that from my experience at Skidmore and the way that has changed my frame of reference, my work gets noticed in ways that would be uncommon for a junior analyst such as myself. Like I just graduated from my master's not even 2 full years ago, or maybe 2.5 years ago, actually. But it's because the dashboards I create and the way that I visualize data goes beyond just saying, these are the numbers I'm reporting to you. It's connecting dots for people in ways that they wouldn't automatically think to do so. And it's bringing in other skills besides just the analytical skills to the way that I'm presenting the data. And it has led to a lot of big opportunities for me really early in my career.
That's amazing. Wonderful. David.
I am going to double down on the same theme. I am also in pretty much the tech and science space. And a little backstory. Now, my parents are African. I see a few Kenyans in the chat, in the audience. I'm sure they will understand. I used to love music a whole lot. I would, in high school, pretty much go to school for music. All the rest of the academics were my extracurricular activity. And this was a big problem for them. Of course, I was having the time of my life. Leading up to university, I was pretty much making, having or being put in a place where I had to make decisions that seemed at odds with each other. Was I going to turn the creative side or the scientific side? And up until that point, these had been two vertical silos in my life, which I thought were both very inherent to my identity. And then I came across a Professor Jillings, who I believe might still be in the Skidmore physics department. And she was studying about the science of music. And I was so intrigued by this idea. And finally, there was someone who was validating an idea that, well, something that annoys musicians I play around is that I am very methodical. Like I see all the patterns that are there in the music. I explain to them why I think it sounds good because I can't help see it. I can't help see the method and the pattern to it. But what annoys the scientists, or sometimes awes them, is the creativity that I bring to the science. And I think at Skidmore, throughout my time there, I was able to find ways to embrace being a creative scientist or being a methodical artist. And now getting into the workspace, and in a tech workspace, not just in a tech workspace, but pretty much the front end and cutting edge of robotics research, there has never been pretty much a time when creativity is needed more. And when we are solving problems that have not been solved before, there's only so much so far science can take you. And creativity at the end of the day wins the day. So that is just how much Skidmore meant to making the whole of me make sense together.
Yeah, I love that. I actually took Professor Jill Linz's Sound of Music physics class. She's wonderful. Hannah or Jenny? Jenny.
Yeah, I could go. So for me, the slogan itself, it immediately sounded so incredible when I was looking where to go to college. It just stuck out amongst the crowd, and I think it's a really really special phrase in itself. It's a really great nurturing environment, and I think that is quite unique, where you're able to go to classes and you're challenged. They're rigorous. The professors are incredible, yet it's a nurturing, creative environment where you really are encouraged to love learning and to do what you love, and that it doesn't have to be, you don't have to feel stuck in a box or choose a path immediately upon joining the school. That you have the ability to really explore and figure out what works for you. And for me, that was important. I think when I started college, I wasn't necessarily sure exactly what I wanted to study, but I knew that I was curious and I knew that there was a lot that I wanted to learn and a lot of different courses I wanted to take. And it was actually in my freshman seminar that it occurred to me I wanted to be an art history major. It wasn't even in my first art history class that I really picked that up. I was in an entirely different discipline. It was a Greek mythology seminar. So there is overlap in everything you do at Skidmore, whether it's a business class, an art history class, a psychology class. You're encouraged to think very critically and deeply in every single one. And I so appreciated that as someone that wasn't super clear what I wanted to do, right off the bat, day one. But it was that environment. It was that creative environment, that curious, nurturing environment that made it easy to figure out what it is I wanted to do, and then ultimately combine that with a slightly different path. So I did an art history major and a business minor, and I use both of those skills every day in marketing in the beauty industry. It's so visual yet also analytical. So it was perfect for me. I absolutely loved it, and I can't think of anywhere else where I could have had that mentality and that environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely agree. And Hannah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I second what everybody has said. For me, I came to Skidmore and I knew I wanted to do English. We have a great English program, and that's why I was like I was really into it. And then I got here and I sort of what everyone was saying, like there's just so many opportunities to do so many different things at Skidmore, from your like freshman seminar to all of the different like disciplines that you have to check off by the time you graduate. And in my second semester of my freshman year, I like already knew I was going to major in English, and then I ended up taking a Greek history class and like fell in love with classics, which was just like totally not something I ever thought I would do. Um, but I think what I really liked about classics is it was an interdisciplinary major, so you were able to do classes in history and classes in art history and language and literature, and it was just all these different things and all these different ways of my mind like studying different topics. That was just so cool. And I don't know that you can do that everywhere else. Like, and not only was I doing English, I was also still doing classics and doing both of them at the same time. And then at the end, when I was preparing for my senior year, which went a little differently with the pandemic, but um, when I was preparing for my senior thesis, I was actually able to do one in both English and classics, and my classical thesis ended up being an interdisciplinary thesis with English and classics, which was so cool. So I was still at like the end of the day being able to use both of those majors and all those skills that I'd learned throughout the different time at Skidmore. And on top of all of that, I was able to do all of my extracurriculars. I was also an admissions counselor. I did radio. I just I did research for my professor. I went abroad. Like it was, you're just able to really do everything while you're at Skidmore, which I don't think you can do everywhere else. And now today in my job, obviously I use all my writing skills, but I think being able to balance all those different things and accessing all those different parts of your brain has made it a lot easier for me to like find different ways to pitch things or like figure out how to communicate with different people in that way. And truly it's all thanks to Skidmore. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is just such the beauty of going to a small liberal arts school. You're really able to have that academic flexibility, which I think all of you just proved. So thank you all so much. So our admissions team, we get a lot of questions about how Skidmore prepares their students for strong outcomes after Skidmore, life after Skidmore. So what kind of tools did Skidmore equip you all with that have allowed you to be successful in your life after college? Yeah, Layla. We're not hearing you. You're good.
There we go. I'm glad I got out of the way. But I think one of the biggest things that the Skidmore environment did to prepare me for success after graduation was putting me in an environment where I truly could access any opportunity that I wanted to if I was willing to put the work in. And so to give some context, I come from an incredibly like low income background, and I was the first person in my family to go to college. A lot of the members of my family, didn't graduate high school. And so coming into college, I was very anxious that, you know, I felt that I had the misconception that I should be grateful just to get to go to college and I shouldn't expect anything additional. And I think what I found at Skidmore was like, if you want to go abroad, if you want to change your major, if you want to take an art class that requires expensive tools, there are resources here that you can avail yourself of if you speak up and you seek them out. Like there are people here willing to help you. And that helped me kind of like break this misconception I had about the world where there were automatic limits in place for what opportunities I could have. And I think an environment like Skidmore not only provided those opportunities to me, which I think, is not necessarily common for every college experience, but it also was a safe place for me to learn how to find those things and learn to put away any anxiety that I had that I shouldn't even be able to try. And so I think when I think about like what prepared me the most to go out there and pivot, I studied political science and then I applied to a master's degree in business analytics. And I was like, I feel like I can do this and I'm looking for the chance. And that's what helped me get into that program. And then I got my first job at the Saints, and there was an opportunity to develop a really important dashboard for the NFL. And I was like, I think I can do this because I really just believe I can. And I believe you should give me the opportunity to try. And I don't think I would have been able to do those things or to even believe in myself to that extent if not for my experience at Skidmore.
That's awesome. Thank you. Anyone want to go next? Yeah, Rachel.
I think the community that I built at Skidmore has so far in the last few months, but also as a lifelong friendship and community that I will always have. I mean, I was just mentioning that I'm going to be visiting in a few months up to Saratoga, and I was telling Gabby, I cannot wait like to see people I worked with at the admissions office. We all say like we have skid moms on campus. I texted my skid mom because that's how it goes with professors. We all call them by their first names. They're your friends, they're your family. How can we support you? What can we do? I texted her. She was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see you." And there are people and professors that I cannot wait to see. And those connections are not only important in job searches and later opportunities, but feeling like a part of community, and it solidifies how important our Skidmore families are to us. And in my job now, I actually have several teachers at my school, our reading specialists, our school psychologists, 2 teachers in the upper school that all went to Skidmore. A lot of the families of my students have parents went to Skidmore. So it's all these connections that keep coming back. And even in and of itself, if I obviously did not graduate the same year as the parents, but when I talk to them, they're like, oh my gosh, like, is such and such still there downtown? Oh my gosh, how's this building or that building? I was in this residence hall. So that form of connection, these are people I'd never met before, and we were able to bond over our love of Skidmore, and those connections from my professors and my classmates and friends are just ones that I hold so close to me. And oh, I can't. I'm gonna cry. I can't. I love them all so much. So I feel just I made the best connections. I had the best professors, friends, classmates. So yeah.
Yeah, I truly feel like the Skidmore connections are everywhere. Awesome. Yeah, David.
To answer the question, I'm going to go back to the interdisciplinary theme, kind of a gift of the liberal arts makeup of Skidmore. I did major in mathematics, but I did a lot of courses in physics, a lot of courses in computer science, a lot of courses in economics, a lot of courses in philosophy, a lot of courses in political science, some even in English. One literally called bad taste. I had to get in to find out what was going to go on there. But why I bring this up is now, as much as my role right now, which is pretty much in robotics, artificial intelligence, I get to pull a lot from the mathematics and statistics and the physics in engineering of it and computer science. There is obviously a lot of conversation going on about what does artificial intelligence mean for the world? What do jobs look like in the future? And what does that go on? Yet I took a class in economics with Job Bibo, who at the time I think was the head of the economics department. Before artificial intelligence came on the scene, he was talking about a concept of a future of a world where nobody will be working. And I thought this was very fascinating. Prior to even the artificial intelligence conversation becoming strong, that was a real thing. I'm not going to tell you what he said because I know most of you might get the chance to have to take that class. So go look for your Bibo and ask him what's going to happen to the world at that time. And I was glad that now when conversations as such come up, I can speak from a place of authority. Another thing I would immediately think of is not to take it to a dark place, but say accidents that happen in normal human interactions or even on the road. Many a times humans can be forgiven for not having the calibration or being overwhelmed by the moment. Yet in the design of machine learning and artificial intelligence, we're coming to the times when those metrics are being narrowed so much that you're not going to say, I didn't have time to react. A decision has to be made. And the car is going to have to decide, am I going to hit this car or that car to do the least damage? And those decisions have to be made. And if it was just scientists in the room who do not have an ethical philosophy background, the conversation could go haywire. And I'm glad I got a chance to be in an ethical philosophy class where I could weigh in from a place of authority, or at least think how the ethical philosophers would think. And I think one breakthrough I could think of from the past was probably the nuclear and atomic race situation in 1945. And as soon as the science took the genie out of the bottle, it became more a political situation than a scientific situation. And we have to keep those things in mind here as we are releasing the next genie from the bottle. And I'm glad a political science authority could inform some of the conversations that I bring up on the table here. So that really has been unparalleled And I do not know how I would have worked out some of those situations had I not had the liberal arts experience at Skidmore. And I'm grateful for what it has meant to my life after Skidmore.
Thank you, David. That is so interesting. Jenny?
Yeah. So for me, there was a lot of really amazing prep at Skidmore in terms of mock interviews, creating a resume, really getting ahead of all of that and doing that while you're on campus, while you're still a student, was amazing. I had a full resume ready to go, you know, I probably during freshman year. And so while I wasn't necessarily, you know, about to head off to my first job, I felt like I was getting there and very early on. And I think being able to sit with your advisor and go through line by line, building all of that out. I had a class as a part of my art history program that was fully dedicated to life after art history and what does that look like in the real world, whether you go down, you know, the traditional art history path or not. And either way, you need a resume and you need to practice those skills, whether it's in an interview or simply problem solving. So I think for me, I got to do a lot of mock interviews, both in that classroom setting as well as in the real world through the Career Development Center. There was one year, I think it was my senior year, that I went to the city. I went to New York and had 6 interviews lined up on this one day dedicated to bringing seniors into the city and meeting with these companies. And I think also learning early on that sometimes those don't all work out. Of course, you don't get every job, but it's about the practice and it's about putting yourself out there, and you learn a lot about what you want to do and who you are by practicing. So having the chance to do that was really incredible, and I felt that I was more comfortable by the time I got out of college and went to my first job. I felt more comfortable than I think I would have been had I not pushed myself to practice and really take all those opportunities. And then I think beyond that, writing skills, being an art history major and just writing tons and tons of essays was great. But I'm realizing, you know, now in the last 5 years, although I'm not writing essays every day, I'm writing a lot of emails, a lot of briefs and PowerPoints, and all of that requires being really concise and clear and using your brain in very different ways to problem solve in unique situations. And I think Skidmore really prepared me for that in all my classes across the board.
Awesome. Thank you. And Hannah?
Yeah. I mean, once again, I have to second what everybody said. I also had a class for my major that was called like Life After Classics or something, where we did the exact same thing. We like had resume building, we did the mock interviews, all of that, which was so helpful. Especially because like I wasn't going into class. I knew I wasn't going to go into classics, so it was nice to be able to like have that going into the real world. And then I also did 2 internships while I was at Skidmore. I did one while I was abroad, actually, working for this like small magazine in Greece. It was very strange. And then I worked at a magazine in Saratoga as well over the summer. And then I stayed on through the school year for a semester, which was very cool to get like in-person print experience. And then aside from all of that, I ended up, like I said, I graduated in 2020 when the world was sort of crazy, and there was no job market. So that was like a lot of pivoting and trying to figure out, you know, what are we all gonna do? And so I ended up meeting with both of my advisors who were both just like so kind and like comforting and trying to help me as best as they could. My English advisor set me up with like all of these different contacts she knew. My classics advisor did everything that he could possibly do, and I also have like randomly found myself back in Saratoga every single year, and every time I get to like see him and meet him for coffee, which is really nice. It's my 5 year in June, which is crazy, or May. So I look forward to giving him an update that like I figured it all out and everything is better now.
That's awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing your experiences. Again, your insight is so valuable to these prospective students. So thank you.